best practices, takes into account all the stuff I'm gonna go through and vice versa. So, we're gonna go through wire fraud. We're probably gonna go through this pretty quick, because we all know what wire fraud is. But I just want to reiterate and emphasize what our protocols are here at Real Advantage. So, let's talk about wire fraud, and then we'll get into what's in your file folders here in a second. But, first thing to do is, we all know what wire fraud is, right?
Yes, we do.
If anybody's unclear on this, it's just someone trying to divert funds. You know, someone's trying to divert funds through a certain way. Next slide. We've updated the statistics on what constitutes, or how much wire fraud is going on. And it's just to show you how prevalent it is throughout the industry, how it just keeps getting worse and worse. Last year, $12.5 billion was officially recognized as wire fraud losses, or, you know, fraud losses, I should say, all wire fraud, but fraud losses. The FBI receives about 2,400 complaints per day. So if you think you just, you reported it to the FBI, all's good, it's gonna get lost, they're not gonna do anything on it forever. So you have to take that step, report it. But how we prevent wire fraud stops way before we have to report it to the FBI. They're just inundated. Average complaints per year, almost 750,000 they get, and over 8 million since they started the IC3 reporting. This next slide. Does everybody know what BEC is? Business email compromise. That's their term for email hacking. So just to get through the statistics, you want to read them there. Real estate is $145 million in losses. Obviously, this is way underreported. Not everybody reports real estate losses. On the one we did have wire fraud, we did report to the FBI and all the departments. But I have no idea if it got included in this. I'm not sure how they do their stats, but obviously those figures are going to be less than the actual fraud and losses that are going on. Next slide, we just want to show you where we're at. California obviously has the most losses, not because they're the most fraudulent state, because they are the biggest, the 5th largest economy in the world. They just have a lot more going on, a lot more transactions. Utah, we're way down there at the end, but that's $132 million in losses last year, just in Utah. And we are a small state, and basically we're gonna be down here because our population's smaller, our number of transactions smaller, it's just kind of the way it goes. But it's not that we're having any less scams, frauds, attempts to trade against us than anywhere else.
It'd be interesting if we had a per capita number.
We did have one, we left it out. We didn't want to get all just into the statistics, but we do have that. We can send out to you. The business email compromise, we're just kind of going through this. We don't, obviously we want to go through what the best practices include on our email systems. Obviously multi-factor authorization. And I think you guys should take all these best practices that we do here, put them into your own personal accounts. Okay. And I will tell you basically why. Not basically, I won't tell you why. I'll give you a story on how hackers, they don't necessarily get into our system directly. They get into our system by getting into your personal systems. I don't know if you guys remember Target. About 10 years ago, they had this huge hack. Most of us probably don't know if you remember that, but 2013, that hack ultimately cost them about $200 million. And after they went through and figured out exactly what happened, is they found out that someone that worked on their HVAC system got hacked, and through the HVAC system's emails, company's emails, they were able to access targets and get into point of sale type transactions. So not all hacks are coming directly to our company emails, they're coming through this through other individual emails, other company emails that happen. So
The one in December of 21 came through the lender. Someone hacked the lender's email and pretended to be the lender.
yeah, I would say Real Advantage has robust systems to stop this. But it also depends on us and how we act. We'll get through, don't click on links, right? Stuff like that. We'll go to the next slide. We're gonna go through this really fast. The B starts with phishing. We all know what phishing is. We have to do the know before you know every year. Next slide, okay, right there. This is just talking about how, just wanna give you a graph. You can see exactly how the losses keep getting bigger and bigger every year. Even though everybody's getting better and better security protocols in, better software, better stuff, it just keeps going up because hackers are smart, fraudsters are smart. They're gonna find a way around the things we do if we are not following our protocols and seeing red flags and stopping before we click a link or do something. Next slide, we're just talking about what's phishing, PEC, social engineering, you know that. Next slide, just want to give this quote. We see a lot of quotes, but Ginny Romney, CEO of IBM, cybercrime is the greatest threat to every company in the world. It's prevalent these days because some countries have armies of hackers, right? And I mean literal armies of hackers. Russia, China, South Korea, or it's not South Korea, North Korea. They actually have soldiers that are doing these hacking. They go there at 8 to 5 and probably taking 3 shifts a day. They're out there trying to phish us, to hack us, and get into our systems. And so just know that when you're taking these precautions, you're fighting against armies, countries' armies. In fact, I think I was reading this past year, Russia passed some sort of law that says that any person that gets convicted, not over there, but over here, of hacking into any sort of US system, Russia will not prosecute them. So that's actual law in Russia. I don't know how that is worded exactly, but just know that they're basically saying, the US is a free-for-all, just go and have fun. See if you can hack into somebody's company or something. Next slide, 94% malware is delivered by email. Cyber attacks, almost always starts with a phishing email. Everything starts with phishing and email. Email is the thing. Although there are text messages, you'll see those come across that says, I get these all the time. America First is your account, which I know. America First is never gonna send you a text unless they're sending you a code to get into your account. As with
Russ is sending a lot of text messages out. He's a popular guy.
Yeah, I got a text from you that-
Out there trying to hack us all.
I know. But it's not me, it's just weird.
$35,000 in currency.
Those things should be reported to Joe.
We get calls too here, saying that they were directed, Ashley's had 2 of them, that they were told to call from Russ. And they need to talk to somebody right away, and you're like,
We're
that's
not
so
right
weird.
now.
So this is it. So when someone calls you to change where they want to send funds to, what is your first
Hard
response?
no.
You never take a verbal instruction for one. Make them send it to you in writing, and then scrutinize whatever they send to you. And you should already think this is fraud just because they called you to say, I got a different account. So you already think it's fraud, so make sure you really scrutinize that.
And if they send you an email, don't use the number in the email to call.
Yes.
Google it and call that number.
Something else is, a lot of times people use their business address for personal email information, like send me my plane tickets here, or send me, this is where I'm signing up for this. That's a good way to get our company in trouble.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of the stuff that's been set up here, and it probably puts you on edge, right? Makes you nervous, makes you scared. Why are we in this industry?
Yeah.
It's important that we do everything that Alan has been talking about, the Russ has been talking about. We document our files, we clear everything on our files. We get pressured to do things fast. We get pressured to say, oh, I paid that off. You can't move forward until you have evidence, and good evidence. And like I say, that's where you need to use me and Russ as backstops, to where you can go to your client and say, I'm trying to get buyers say, I can't, they've tied my hands, use us as your excuse. And so, well, we will always back you up on that. So, anyway, let's go to the 9 best practices to follow. These are just tips and tricks. Obviously, you wanna avoid free email accounts, use strong passwords, change them every 90 days. You should be used to that here at the company. Say no to free Wi-Fi. These are all, I think they're just tips for us in general. Have you seen the new thing where you plug your charger into a port somewhere, like an airport, and they start downloading all your data on your phone? Take a portable battery with you as you go through the airports, I guess. Number 4, I think, is important. Communicate with buyers and sellers. We get lots of, I guess, everybody's scared to talk to their people. They wanna talk to their agents. Their agents they all say we're being bothered too much, we don't want you to call us or contact us very often. The best way to determine if there's any sort of fraudulent activity is if you're communicating with your buyers and sellers directly, and you know who they are, you can feel comfortable with them, they can feel comfortable with you, but communicate. Our systems allow us to communicate with them and take a lot of that out of our actual time of phone calling and stuff like that, but we do need to make those phone calls. How many times have you guys been to a closing table with buyers that you've never talked to, that you're gonna close their transaction, the biggest thing they purchased in their life, and you've never even talked to them? They've never talked to us. I think that's odd. Sellers who we're handling hundreds of thousands of dollars for, sometimes we get to the closing table, we've never even had a communication with them. I think that's odd, but it happens quite a bit. You know, using VPNs, obviously if you on our Wi-Fi, we have VPNs, but if you're out working remotely, you guys all have VPNs on your laptops and on your phones. You know, and so if you're working remotely, make sure you got a VPN installed on your laptop. Most of us come with free VPNs these days, but you should be able to get one. Nord VPN's like $3 a month. You know, they're fairly cheap. Keep your antivirus software current, use two-factor authentication. Even on my Gmail account, who has Gmail account here? We all do, right? How many of you guys have two-factor authentication on your personal Gmail? Okay, you should. That's probably those accounts are the ones that get hacked the most often.
Agents use it all the time and she kills me.
I know.
Tips from the FBI.
They're like, can you send me the wire instructions? You're like, absolutely not. There's so much wrong with that.
So tips from the FBI, we can read these. I'll send the slides out to everybody so you can read through these. You know, it's nothing groundbreaking or shattering. It's the same thing we should be doing every day. Be vigilant. Okay, so let's get down to protect yourself. If you're targeted, I'm gonna go past this and let's see some examples. The QR code scam. Has everybody heard of that? We love QR codes, right?
No.
Yes, we do. We love to scan with quality.
Yes, we do. We love those.
It'll speed up your workflow huge. But there are, you know, QR codes. If you're out there at a restaurant, they used to, you know, it'd take you to wrong websites and stuff like that. So you have to be careful with QR codes. The large file warning. Has anybody ever received one of these?
Yes.
What's the first thing you do? Click the link? No.
Yes.
Call whoever's sending you, because usually it's a title company or something, and say, did you just send me this file? And they're probably gonna tell you, no, we didn't. Because they have ways they can deliver it. So don't click these large file things. To be honest with you, if someone wants to get documents to you, they're gonna make sure you got them. Because they're probably gonna be calling you, did you receive this? And you're gonna know who it is. So generally, if I get emails that are weird, I delete them, ignore them. If it's really important, someone's gonna reach back out to me. That's not a best practice, by the way.
Go ahead and delete that and just.
Yeah, don't ever delete my emails or Tracy's emails. Okay, HR financial request. This looks really good, right? You gotta adjust your pay. Haven't paid you enough money.
Yes, please.
That would be awesome.
we're gonna try and make sure we pay everybody what we're supposed to pay you, but we're, you know, call HR and see if they really said that. Password update, this is a fun one, cause we do get these requests to update our passwords.
I don't think they email us though.
No, they don't email you. Should pop up in your system, at least our company ones will just pop up in your system and say it's gotta be passed, or it gotta be changed. But I would scrutinize those, we get those all the time, your password's been compromised, you need to change it. Email phishing, when you guys receive payoffs through the email, do you look at the email and see where it's come from? Okay, you should every time, just to make sure. Now, we have a great tool on verifying our payoffs, right? Certified, you gotta use it on every payoff, it doesn't matter. And we do a lot of wire coverage between branches and stuff, because, you know, we have small branches that don't have many people to wire, and just vacation, stuff like that. When someone sends you wire instructions for you to send out a wire, what do you require from them to send you?
What do you mean?
Yes,
Like if-
require from them, before you approve a wire.
Oh.
Oh,
Like if Patrick
from
wants me to
another
do a
team
wire?
member?
Yeah, from another
Oh.
team member.
Oh, I was like, what?
The
Stamp.
the instructions, the verified instructions,
The ledger.
and then the ledger.
I sometimes get
The
someone,
receipt.
I sometimes get instructions sent to me, just, you know, cause our system, once you post that wire, and you should post the wire before you send the wire in the bank,
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
Ask Tracy, she
Please.
should.
Should.
I mean, right when you're gonna start wiring out, go post your ledger and post it, cause,
Cause then you have the form, and it matches up
yes,
to
cause
what your
then you
actual
print your
instructions
wire
are.
form for you.
And
Do I
then you
have to
have
sign it?
multiple forms to say you have the right amount and the right instructions. Cause that's your.
It's
I
best
sign
practice
it.
to sign your wire authorization form, so everybody knows who
Yeah.
put it in, and then you send it out.
Yeah.
We will know that, we can track that activity, but it's nice to not have to go into the other systems and track that. But I have received requests to send off wires, and what they take is a screenshot of the wire they put into the system. It doesn't work for them. I need to know where you got the instructions, I need to know that they've been verified, and who you verified them with, so I know they're verified wire instructions.
We get some sort of insurance if we use that certified ID for payouts, right? So,
It's like $1 million, I think.
Yeah,
That's what I've been telling my clients.
If they send their wire, their money's insured up to $1 million for payoffs too.
I'll check and see, but you're right, it may be with
It's
the
for, that's why you don't pay for that extra,
closing block
insurance.
did that, yeah, you're right.
so say that again, I didn't hear you.
So when you have somebody use it to get wire instructions, we always tell them they don't have to pay for the additional insurance unless they're sending over $1 million, because their money's insured up to $1 million by
Right.
using.
So, okay,
But
cause
I
I've
don't
been
think it's
telling
on the
people,
payoffs.
that's why we charge them that $25, cause there was some insurance that came with it, so I'll be careful with
For
that.
the
So-
safety.
Well, we charge it because we employ all these securitized systems to make sure their transactions safe.
Okay.
Yeah, and it costs us to use it, like verifying payoffs is free and certified. But to send wire instructions and to receive wire instructions, it does cost us.
Okay.
And now, have you guys been into certified lately and seen that they have a ID verification
Yeah.
part of their system? You should be using it. If you ever have a seller that you're not gonna see at the table or go through a RON process, you know, you're just sending out a mobile notary, you should be verifying these sellers' IDs. And if they think it's a real pain in the butt, let them know that all you're doing is protecting their hundreds of thousands of dollars that they're gonna get out of the transaction. So it's just a minor thing, doesn't take much.
So you have them email you copies of their ID?
No, you have to go through.
If you
Yeah.
want certified, all they're gonna do is it's gonna send a link and they will be prompted to upload a front and back picture of their ID. And this,
Go through it.
the software verifies that it's a valid issued ID.
Identrust is the same thing, and you have to do it within
Right.
so long.
And
I didn't know we
I
had
don't
to do
mind
that
getting
with
a
the mobile
selfie,
notaries.
you know, best practice would be to get a selfie so that you see the picture matches the ID. And it's not just a stolen ID. Next, these are just, again, just examples of check the email where it's coming from. Next one's social media phishing. you know, LinkedIn, you know, someone can tell me this, I don't really get on LinkedIn a whole lot, or most social medias, but
Again, it's just checking the email.
Are you guys doing any wrongs here?
we do, yes.
I do a lot of them.
I do a ton.
You are doing them, okay.
Yeah. And we're gonna get into this whole seller fraud and everything. So these are just examples, so I'll send this out to you guys. So, we have these resources. Kim, let's go down to the resources. Who all has one of these things on their page, or on their desk? Everybody should have one. If you
I'll have
don't,
it
contact us. You guys seen the red flags?
It's all been the same now.
Yeah, we generally, when we hire someone, we put those on your desk, keep them around. We have our protocols, you know, what to do if there's a wire fraud incident. Now,
And
I
the
will go
worksheet-
back to
The worksheet and the loan is on our website under employee assets. There's a section for fraud,
yes.
so there's a worksheet that, I don't know if I have the red box, but I can put that up there too.
Now, I will go back to our one incident where we had the seller fraud impersonation, where wire was, they sent the wire, but they had a gut feeling that something was wrong, they maybe heard something from somebody, whatever the reason being. Within a couple hours of sending that wire, they contacted me, let me know what happened. We got onto our protocols, got onto this list, followed up. I don't know if that wire would have made it because there was some issues with the account name and number, but as Alan says, banks are not required to match account names and account numbers. So there's some banks, and I think Wells Fargo has been, you know, part of this in the past, where they'll just drop wires in accounts, even though the names don't match.
I got a wires in my account, $32,000. I was
So,
like, Christmas. I gave it back. I called them right away.
The banks do not verify the accounts and the names?
they're not legally required to.
Legally required.
Well, why would they accept a wire? Don't they reject the wires when they don't match up? Like there are.
Well,
some
I think most do, but
Okay.
not all, it's not required of them.
So they're not liable if.
Well, this is
That's
what
not
they-
required.
Now, we were able to get this wire stopped and frozen, but it took us over 3 months to get it back, and it was
Wow.
close to $600,000. And, but following the protocols in place, we got that done, and for the escrow officers that did this, we caught that, they saw some red flags, they should have seen them earlier, but it was caught, and that was the good, you know, it was a good result at the end of this. So follow our protocols, it's only there for your safety, for our safety. As Russ says, these are career killer mistakes. They could be company killer mistakes, but generally they will be career killer mistakes. So that's all we have really on the wire fraud. I want to, you can open it in your folder. We put a couple of things in there. One's gonna be, we've already got, I just wanna put this in your hands. We do have our rapid response protocols. But again, this is Alta's best practices on that. Ours mirrors this. So it's just good information to have. And the next couple things I'll tell you what they are, but we won't go through those yet. So let's go into seller fraud. Does anybody else have any questions? Oh, can someone tell me what are the only 3 ways we can send out our wire instructions?
Encrypted.
Qualia, in person.
Qualia Connect, which is through the secure portal, through certified
For in person.
and in person. That's the only ways we give out wire instructions.
What about when the computer will encrypt the code?
I
I mean, the copier, and they can't open it unless they have that code.
I mean, that's probably a way, but it seems like it's a lot more hassle than just
Well,
pushing
like-
sand on Qualia or sand on
They don't like to sign
something.
with the quality, and that way they have.
Rob's
the
clients
code.
don't like Qualia.
I mean, I've tried, I like quality.
I know, this is just a, I think this is, yes, I get that.
I'm getting older people would rather know that it's a code. I say, give me a code, that's your password.
And then just sign an indemnity that they're authorizing us to send it unencrypted and no matter what happens, we're not responsible.
Yeah,
You
we
might
do that.
think about it then, I'm just saying.
Yeah, and I get there's some people like that, but,
I try
Have
to
them come in and put them in person.
you know, are we sure we're talking to the right people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, one.
Yeah.
90% we do it through quality.
those are the three ways, and I don't know if you've seen our invite, when they're invited to quality, have you guys read the invite? Do you know you can go into, I think we saw this on our last office hours, right? You can go into your Connect history and click on anything that's been done in there, and it will show you the exact email that was sent to your client. So you know exactly what they're receiving. And in that invite email, it says that they're not going to get wire instructions from us by a PDF. That's just not a way we send them out, and we need to adhere to our practices so that everybody will know that if they get something from us, it's safe and secure. Okay. All right, let's go to seller fraud. Let me pull mine up. Okay, so we've talked about seller fraud a little bit. I want to go through a then and now, because seller fraud's been around here for a little bit, where it's been on top of our minds, right? So what was the threat back then? The continued threat, this is gonna talk about what the scheme involves. So this was the threat as it started. Let's go through what that was. Vacant, non-occupied, unencumbered property listed for sale, usually either below market value or a very competitive price. Foreigner, absentee owner, mail away closing requested, all communication with the owners via email. They're not talking to you on the phone. Now this is the threat as it originally started, right? Sale deeds returned notarized by a notary in a different location or county than where the foreign or absentee owner resides. Real notary publics' names from the US and foreign embassies were being used and their stamps were being lifted or forged. So you almost can't even trust notarized documents anymore. Identification provided including foreign passports and obviously fake driver's ID licenses. Proceeds wired to a bank account in a third location or country. So that was the original threat, right? And it's always been with vacant, unoccupied, and unencumbered property, because if it's encumbered, we have to start getting more information to get a payoff request, and that's why it's always been unencumbered. Obviously, it goes without saying why it's vacant, non-owner occupied. But we're at the ULTA, and we were presented with this example. I think it was Tig from First American. Because he's retiring this year. Yep, he is. At the end of the year, Tig's retired. But he presented an example that they had come across where they did a closing for a couple who had purchased some land out in Nephi up in the mountains. They were gonna build their retirement home, but they purchased it. They couldn't quite build yet. They were taking a couple of years to get their finances together, to get the architectural drawings just the way they wanted. And they would drive down there on occasion to check the property out, just to look at it, vision their dream of their retirement home. And one year, so they're probably about 3 or 4 years of owning this property. One year they drove down there just to check it out and look at it. They get down there and there's a construction site on their property. A home with a foundation poured
Oh
in.
my
and
man.
such. So obviously, some sort of fraud happened, they had to figure it out, but it took them years to get that thing reversed. Lots of money. And the bad thing about them is since they bought this property as unoccupied vacant land, their homeowner's policy, well, I shouldn't say that, their owner's policy title insurance did not cover post-closing fraud. Because you guys all know that basic owner's policies do not cover post-closing fraud. Homeowners policies and extended owners policies do cover post-closing fraud. So they didn't even have a claim they could present to the title company on the policy. It was just fraud that they had to go fight on their own dime. Okay, so what's the threat? Oh, it's the threat. Let's go
Do
to
you
the
think
next
that's
one.
another reason why they're targeting land, or are they not that smart, because they don't care, the fraudsters?
Well, they're targeting land because it's the largest single type of transaction that we do. And generally, you're working with unsophisticated landowners. But believe me, they're targeting businesses and putting the ransomware and locking up their systems and getting millions of dollars out of it.
Who here is gonna buy a house without walking through the house? Land's a little different. So that's probably it's the easiest or least restrictive way to actually impersonate someone, because if you're selling a house, whoever's gonna buy it's gonna walk through it unless it's an investor or something like that. So in my opinion, that's all it is. That would be one of the main reasons.
So, this is the threat evolution. And the scheme, this seller fraud scheme has evolved over time, and it's gonna include the following. So now, foreign notaries are no longer used or not used as frequently, because we do have to go through getting I think it's called a apostille, or we have to go and verify that foreign notary stamp. And it's a onerous process. Park City happens to, more often than you want it to, because they're always dealing with foreign people. Real notary public's names in the US, located in the US, are being used and their stamps are being lifted for it, so that's still going on. Property owners include out-of-state or out-of-town owners and American citizens now, and less the foreign nationals. I think we caught on, if you're a foreign national, we're doing a lot more verification, so now they're just reverting to being regular US citizens. The identification provided now includes credible driver's licenses that appear and check out as valid on the Department of Motor Vehicles website. So they're able to hack into the DMV systems and get valid licenses. So it's just, they're always gonna be a step ahead of us. Prior in the chain, recorded days or weeks before the fraudulent transaction without a corresponding mortgage being recorded. Bogus deed recorded right after taxes are paid. Then they sit on it for a few months to see if it gets noticed, then they sell. So what's kind of happening nowadays is they're forging notary stamps, they're getting licenses that pass DMV certification or validation. And what they are doing, that's, if you look in your packet, we've got a warranty deed. Now, this is not a fraud deed in your packet. But it came through an email, I think all of us kind of got an email from Jess the other day. And it caught my eye, just because this is one you'd want to raise a red flag if you wanna look at it. And it doesn't matter if it says courtesy recording or not. They can put a courtesy recording stamp on it, just like we do. So, that's not gonna matter. It doesn't have a courtesy stamp, because this is a deed we legitimately did record for somebody. But, you notice when it was recorded. First of the year, right after taxes had been paid, so that, they recorded first of the year. That way, if they recorded it in October, that tax notice might be being sent to it won't be sent to the real owner, it'd be sent to the fraudulent owner. And that way, the real owner would wonder, where's my tax notice? And might start raising some questions. But they do it after the taxes are paid, so that notice is not gonna go out to not going to go out to the real owner for a number of months. So it was recorded after the first of the year. It was, I looked at the notary stamp. It was right before the notary stamp was expiring. So I checked in and made sure, okay, is this a real Utah notary? And it is. She works for Novation Title, or I think that's where Metro or somebody. She's with the title company, and she got it renewed within a few days after this. But it just is a deed that should raise a red flag. It doesn't mean it's fraudulent. It just means you look at it a little closer. I wanted to look at the company name. Is the company a real company? So I just put that in there. Notice that this is not a fraudulent deed, this is a valid deed.
Did Jess ever get her questions answered?
She did.
Oh.
Lori, I had gotten the same call and I had sent it to Lori while she was at jury duty and she responded, so it was good.
Okay. So now the threat has evolved to LLCs. So now, as Alma was talking about, they've hijacked companies. And so how do we combat LLC ownership fraud? Well, I'm hoping you guys, every time you get a company that's either buying or selling, you're checking to make sure that that company is legitimately filed with the state, wherever it's supposed to be filed at. In this side, I can give you a link that shows you that contains a page that contains all the links to every state's websites to search for a company. You may have to pay a fee, but we reimburse you for those fees. But we always make sure the company is valid. And And what happens if you find, and it happens a lot here in Utah, you find a company has, is an expired company.
You call them
Can
until
still
they
sell
go.
if it's expired, they can't purchase.
You can still sell, but what is required if you do sell out of the expired company? You cannot have the manager just sign. You have
All
to
of
have
them.
every
All of them.
beneficial owner that was listed
Okay.
in those filings sign.
Or they can go make it active. if they
Yeah,
don't.
I would just go make them renew it, but sometimes they get so old they can't be renewed.
Right.
But, so if you get expired companies, talk to me before, tell me what is going to be needed to get, authorization to pass that transaction. But you wanna search the state's LLC database, download the filed documents, you wanna see what's been filed. Make sure signatures are there, it's gonna give you information on where it's supposed to go to now. And you can see if there's been a newly filed document where all of a sudden they've just changed the beneficiary or changed the manager. You may wanna call and follow up on that because they're hijacking legitimate LLC companies. So you wanna check this stuff out. Just know, we do have an account with Utah. Does everybody have that account where you're not having to get reimbursed for every time you pull down those documents? It's pretty cheap, it's like $2 a document. And we can discuss a nationwide account if it's necessary. I don't think we have to worry about that now. You wanna check the company website. So if you see a company name in there, see if they're on the web. Find out if, they do a business or something they have. You wanna dig into alternative records. Verify signing authority and signatures from previously recorded documents. So you can do a search in the county for that same company and see if they've owned other properties, see what's gone on. I like to call previous title companies that have worked on that file and see if they have information. Most of them I've never had anybody not give me the information I requested, because I'm not asking for personal information, I'm just asking what contact information they had for the manager of the company. If I've got the right phone number, I've got the right email, the right person. And they're, like I said, I've never had one refuse that request. And again, that's where, what happens with an LLC is expired. Where do the funds get sent to on an expired LLC?
Still an LLC account.
To the LLC account. They better have an account. You don't send it to the manager or one of the beneficiaries of the owners, so.
That was one of the things we did first when we got that contract that came over. We went to the county website, pulled up, everything about that deal seemed wrong, but that was the first thing we did was pull up and look at his deed of trust and compare the signatures, and they weren't even close.
Yeah, so you just gotta dig into this stuff. That's why we're the professionals. We have all the tools to do this. We have to dig in. And I think that's why when clients are trying to pressure you to get this quick close, and for lots of reasons, it may not be for fraud, it just means agent wants his commission, whatever. But they're trying to push for the quick close, but they don't care what happens on the file. I'm gonna mostly talk about agents. They could care less what's going on in the file because we legitimize the transaction. And if we're gonna get pushed around and take shortcuts and do this, it's all gonna come on us, and that's why they're like, well, title did it, so it must have been good. We are the ones that legitimize every transaction, so we cannot take shortcuts or get pushed around. Make sure you're crossing your T's, dotting your I's. Okay. So let's talk about the red flags. Obviously, we know this: vacant, non-owner occupied, unencumbered property. Mail away closings are still requested, even if the property and the purported owner is local. Sometimes they're like, oh, I'm too busy, I can't come in to sign this. What happens if a owner says, I've got my own notary in my office? How do we respond to that request? No. Just say, sorry, it's protocol, we have to get our own notary requested. And we'll talk about notaries here in a second on how to manage that. Funds are wired to a location where the owner does not reside or not located or under the wrong name. Every seller fraud that we have come across, we've come across a few. It seems like the owner's always traveling, right? well, I'm in New York, I'm visiting this, I got my sick wife that's here, and whatever. They're always traveling, they're not in the state where their residence is. It seems like that is a pretty common thing. Uninsured deeds with no company trustee, we know why that's there, just because they don't wanna provide information to get payoffs, cause they really can't. So vigilance, you know, we always just gotta scrutinize our transactions, watch for red flags, contact owners of the property, verify the transaction using independent sources, manage the notarization or execution of the deed. So, with the manager of the notary, we never let them use their own notaries. On occasion, if I know I'm talking to a lawyer in a law firm, I have to verify that part of it. But lawyers have notaries in their law firms, you know, it's something they do on a daily basis. But I tend to know most of the attorneys in this state, you know, out of state, I don't really do that, I don't allow them to do it. But in this state, if I know the attorney and I know he's a practicing attorney, I may let that slide, you know, and let them use their own in-office notary. But there's very few exceptions to that, so you have to manage the notarization. And tomorrow on office hours, who's gonna be on there? Okay. SnapDocs is going to get on our office hours presentation tomorrow. They're gonna go through their platform. It's our preferred nationwide notary service. It's not the one required to use, but you have to use legitimate nationwide notarial service if you're gonna outsource your notaries. So we verify the owner's identity independently, that's through certified, has that option there for you. You know, comparing signatures on previous deeds. You know, if you're contacting the notary, you know, generally, we probably don't have much contact with the actual notary that's doing the notarization, but we do with the companies that are running them. And we've gotta control the disbursement of the funds and analyze the bank information provided. So if you're getting back weird information, it just looks weird. Obviously, if it's not going to the seller's name that's on the, you know, that's on the property, that's a red flag. I know we had one just the other day where we've got companies that own companies that own companies that own the development. And they want the funds dispersed in not the developing company, but the company that owns the developing company. We can do that if we go through all the proper channels. We had to go and get all the owners of both companies, because it's all the same owners, but we had to get authorization from all the owners telling us, yes, it's okay to disperse to this company. So you have to kind of go through that process. All right, and that really is there any questions on any of this stuff? Just know that Annette's had one, I know, that she sussed out really quickly, because you see the red flags. If you have a question about a red flag, call another escrow officer, run it by them, call me, call Russ. Run the questions by us. We're there to be sounding boards. We're there to throw in our 2 cents and our experiences. So don't ever feel like it's a dumb question to say, my seller's acting like this way, what do you think? And never feel like you're inconveniencing a seller to get their identity verified. All you're doing is safeguarding their hundreds of thousands of dollars of profit, of equity. That's all you're doing to them. Any owner that you let them know, just say, we just need to do this. It's our protocol. We're trying to make sure that your money gets in your hands. Can you take 30 seconds and verify, you know, validate an ID? I don't think you'll get much pushback. You might get some on a few, but, yeah. Okay. Well, that's all we have on the seller fraud. And I wanted to talk just a couple of things to finish up. Less said is better, right? In most cases. You know, if you just keep talking and talking, maybe I should take that. But claims have been made against title companies and underwriters for what escrow officers have promised people about insurance coverage. So even if a claim is, or say a situation is not covered by our title insurance, those claims have been enforced against the underwriters by the courts because someone told the buyer or seller that this insurance covers that situation, when we don't really know. To be honest with you, I don't know what insurance covers all the time, because it's all very fact-oriented, you know, it's all the circumstances surrounding it to turn that situation into a coverable claim or a non-coverable claim. So that's where we're saying, unless you become an expert on insurance coverage or title insurance coverage, which maybe we should be, but try not to explain exactly what insurance covers. If you do it in real general terms and don't apply it to their situation, because it could result in something that come back on us.
I have a question. Is
Yeah.
there somewhere in the system that we can pull just jackets for like the owner's policy, homeowner's policy?
I can send you those. Cause the jackets are uniform across every title company.
Oh.
So it's an Alta, Alta puts out the jackets, so we can pull those, and it'll be whatever underwriter we write it on, it's gonna be the same. The last thing in your handout is the new marketing rules. We will not go over those today.
Oh, what?
That'd be good for office hours.
Separate meeting.
It's gonna be a separate meeting, and there's some significant changes.
When do they go into effect?
Oh, they're in effect right now.
Oh,
So I will give you just the highlights of it. $100 per person per lunch, that's the only change, they increased it from 50 to 100. They increased the swag from 15 to 25.
jeez.
And they increased the anniversary gift, childbirth, or death, from 75 to 150. Now, I will tell you, if you're spending $100 per person per lunch, you're gonna get side-eye from us. Not because where are you going to buy lunch for $100 per person?
Oh, I know some places.
I know you know.
There's some places.
I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
I'm just saying, those are the max.
I can do it.
Those are the max.
Don't challenge me.
Don't tip me.
Those are the max, but what that really applies to, I mean, you should be spending, I don't know, like lunch, lunches are cheap. That $100 per person also carries over to like golf events and stuff like that. And so maybe you're taking them to a $50 ticket to a Grizzlies game or a Coyotes game.
You can do pedicures now, though, that's.
Just remember, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
That's a good way. Talk to you for an hour.
If we buy somebody's business, they will go to the next highest bidder.
Yep.
So how we give business through value, not through buying lunches. It gives us a little more leeway, which is great in some regards, but there's some definitely some negatives on the new rules as well. So.
There are. And
Point
we'll
out
go down.
three.
See, cause I feel like that now is buying the business.
For sure.
They keep saying all the time that they don't want that to be it, except now they're like, oh, more money, more money. I get that things have gotten more expensive, but even like the CE class and things,
Yeah.
it feels like the exact opposite of what
I
a
agree.
fair inducement
Yes.
is.
I agree.
It's bananas.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do, we're gonna get together, me and Ross and Kim and the sales team, because we wanna go through with these guys first. Because there's a lot to understand,
Sure.
and I wanna get some situations, and that way they can, because they're marketing for you guys, and that way they can impart this information to you. But then we'll have an office hours on it as well.
It's gonna change the way we do business.
Yeah, it will.
Let's put it that way.
But I wanted to give you a copy of the rules. I know you probably have them somewhere, but
It's ridiculous.
that's in there. But that's all we have today.
I'm gonna get up for just
Oh, yeah.
1 more minute, but first of all, thanks, Johnny, good job.
We really want to thank Alma. That was, I want to thank you as a
Oh,
fantastic.
I love it. Thanks for everybody supporting JLM Exchange, thank you.
And I want to really thank Stephanie for helping set this up, so.
Yeah, good job.